want to anymore. There's no fun. Let me put my point of view in there. But before we get to that subject, there was a story this week that was just horrible, but it is a conversation that we, as well as the assisted suicide subject, we need to have this debate. What do you do if you see something happening? If you see somebody beating somebody up, if somebody's throwing crisps, making noise in the cinema, what do you do? Do you get involved, or do you say, it doesn't involve me, I'm not prepared to put myself in harm's way, it's nothing that's harming me, I don't want anything to do with it? This week, with a really, really sad story about a woman in a cinema.
Just was horrified, because it's such a terrible thing to happen to anybody, but especially a mother with her family on a nice day out.
Gone to the cinema, looking at the film, some youngsters making some noise. Will you please be quiet? At the end of it, they threw bleach in her face. This is what the detective in charge of the case said.
It is yet to be established whether she suffered long-lasting results from the attack, but she is very upset by what happened, and I'm sure these are mental scars that she'll carry with her for the rest of her life.
This week I talked to Norman Brennan. He used to be a police officer, worked for British Transport Police. He was passionate about this subject. The question for our debate was, and indeed is, Carol and Simon, when you see something, do you get involved? Would you, could you, should you get involved when you see something happening? This is what he said.
If the public are apathetic, and most of my family, my police colleagues and friends tell me, Norman, just give up, everyone else has given up, then if that's the case, if we all give up, what hope have we got of making the streets of London and Britain safe like they once were?
Like they once were. I didn't ask him when they were safe. Before I come to my guest, let me find out from Eugene what happened. Good evening to you, Eugene.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Apologies for keeping you waiting. Tell me your story, please.
Well, this is a topic that's actually happened, a situation that's happened like a couple of years ago, and I've been shocked by a lot of my friends when I brought this conversation up, that they've actually been really surprised about what I've done, and it's had the opposite effect of what I assumed that what they were going to actually come back with. And my situation was this. One early morning, I got on a bus, and I was on my way to work, and the bus was crowded. There was a lot of people on the bus, and a lady came on with a pushchair. It was one of those jump-off, jump-on buses. I don't know what they're fully called, but a lady came onto the bus, and she had a pram with her, and she shuffled through the crowd. And as she came through the crowd, she came past me, and naturally I just moved to the side. And she tried to put her pram with a section where people put their prams on the bus. But there was this young gentleman who was, he wouldn't move. And she was asking him politely he could step to the side. And I was shocked to hear this guy, the language that was coming out of this guy's mouth. And we're literally, it's early in the morning, the bus is crowded with people, and I'm standing there and I'm thinking, wait a minute, no one's saying anything. This is really weird. So now the abuse started to escalate, and his voice started to get louder, and it went on for probably around a minute, but it seemed like it was going on for ages. And I just thought to myself, I can't believe how this guy's going on. And then he actually said, if you move the pram closer to my shoes, I will kick your pram. And at this point, I thought, she has a baby in the pram. The bus is crowded. No one's going to say anything. And I'm just fuming. So naturally, I am a kind of person who get involved in those type of situations when it builds to a certain point. Now, at this point, when he started to move closer to the pram, I thought to myself, if he kicks this pram, there's a baby in it. I don't know what, it could turn it worse. So basically, long story is, I got involved. The bus was really crowded. In a nice way of telling the story, I grabbed him by the ear and I threw him off the bus. And I turned around to everybody on the bus and I said, while I had him and I was trying to get him off the bus, I turned around to people and I said, not one person is going to help me. Not one. And the whole bus, everybody sort of looked down and everyone looked away. And no one helped me. No one. And it could have escalated to a bad situation. Now, I was really frustrated, and the lady thanked me, and, you know, I'm not a hero or anything, but I just assumed that that's what everybody should do. That's just a natural instinct. And when I brought this story up to friends of mine, they've turned around and said that I'm crazy, I'm a fool, I'm stupid to actually get involved, because what young people do today. And I was just shocked that my friends would say this, because that woman could be their mother. And and the first thing, if he did attack the mother, and they went to the hospital, the first thing they would say was she was on a bus. And then they'd say, how many people were on the bus? No one did anything. So I think it's okay when people hear stories about people going through stuff, but when it hits home to them, it would be a different turnout. And, you know, it's just a thing that...
So you think that people should get involved, do you?
Well, you know, I feel, you know, I know society, from the media perspective, it seems that society has got slightly a bit more violent and a bit more dangerous. But I feel that, you know, I feel that people need to step forth and do something, or we're all going to be victims.
You see, the scary thing about this subject is, and you've actually pointed it out perfectly for me, is that when I talk to men and women about getting involved, intervening, they have very different ways of doing it. So when I talk to women about doing it, quite often it's about some clever way. I phoned the police. I said, look, you don't have to be like this or whatever. And when I talk to men, men do what you did, and then they get their cape on and they put their underpants over their trousers. So you have assaulted this man. If the police came, you would have been taken off to the police station.
Yes, I would have been taken towards the police station, but I'd rather been taken away to the police station than a young man kicking a baby in a pram. I'd rather tell that story than tell the other story of a child being hurt, or a lady with a child being hurt. So
I'm going to use you as an example tonight. I hope you don't mind, Eugene. We've heard your story. We may well clip it and play it back, but I'm going to use you an example of what you should never, ever do.
No problem. No problem.
Is that all right?
I know. No problem.
And I think you need to, when you tell that story and you tell your friends, don't get upset with them for not agreeing with you. Try to listen to what they say to you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, if I may respond, I agree with you. But I'm not angry at my friends. I just think we live in a very, very different time, and I just feel I have children, and I'm not a person who would jump into these things. But like in the past, I was a person who would do this. But fair enough. Right now I have children, I would look at that situation a little bit more differently, and I have to be brutally honest about that.
Okay, and that doesn't mean, of course, that you shouldn't get involved at all. I'm not going to tell you that you did right or wrong. I just say the way that you did it would have, so far as I understand it, constituted an assault, and you would have got yourself in trouble. Eugene, thank you very much for starting us off on this one. So, you first, Carol. In terms of what you see, do you advocate people intervening? Have you ever done it, or does it worry you?
Again, there's no blanket answer.
No.
I think if you're on your own in a train and somebody is in any way hassling somebody else, and you're the only other person there, and you feel the other person has much more strength, I think I'd much more revert to the phone and try and call for help than I would try and go to a rescue of somebody when I too would be probably flawed. So I think that's just a decision I would make. I think that if I was on that bus, I would have gone up to that man and I would have said to him, do not speak like that to that woman, and I would have been surrounded by people, and I doubt he would have floored me.
Yeah, no, all of them are looking at the floor. You're crazy. We don't know her. That's a mad woman. The point that Eugene was making is that nobody on the bus had his back.
I think Eugene was there, and I think he did the right thing, but the wrong way. I think he was right to intervene, but I think to throw him off the bus wasn't one, and nobody wants to get involved in fisticuffs. I think if he said, now look here, this is the wrong thing to do, and looked at other people, do you agree? I think people would have been solid solidarity there. I'm all for Neighbourhood Watch. I'm all for everybody helping each other. But I'm not for somebody foolishly putting themselves in danger too, just like it kills you when you see these people who jump into the river to save a dog or to save a cat and they get killed themselves. I think you've got to try and think, where can I be most effective? And I think if I didn't think I could be effective, I wouldn't be effective. But I do think that on the whole, you should intervene as long as you think you've got backup and there's someone else that can come along and help you too.
You see, Summer Woolley, that's a perfect answer. That answer is absolutely fantastic, except that quite often you are in that situation, and I imagine Eugene didn't go through that thought process. He just did instinctively what he thought was the right
Well, it
thing.
wasn't instinctively because he waited a long time.
But
He waited a minute.
What he did do, Carolyn, is, and it's the same as what you did, was that you questioned your conscience.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Eugene was disappointed with the answer he got from his friends, because I think I can imagine what enraged him was the fact that he was worried that people were not questioning their conscience. And Carol, you just took us through a journey in which you said once you questioned your conscience, your next question was, how can I be most effective without putting myself in danger? And then, as you said, you may have said something and felt a little bit emboldened because there are a group there. You may have gone to your phone to text somebody to say there's a problem, but you act. You act in the best way. And, in those situations, I mean, I'm quietly proud of Eugene. One, that he questioned his conscience and said this is wrong and something needs to be done. And I guess as it escalated, he thought, well, the best way to do this was to get this individual off the bus in a quick fashion. And I applaud him. I don't think it's right for us to advocate that people physically get involved, but we can urge them to question themselves, Eddie.
I mean, there are many people who are listening to this who think we're all talking nonsense, because I've run stories on my shows about a man who challenged youngsters about throwing chips. You may well have heard it or read about it yourself. There was a woman on a train station who challenged some young men about smoking, so they threw her onto the track. We've got a story which is the catalyst for a conversation about a woman who was telling some youngsters to be quiet in a cinema, and that resulted in her having bleach thrown in her face. So when we run stories like this, which are statements of fact, it does make it less likely, doesn't it, and not more likely that people will get involved. And if we don't, then what?
Well, first of all, the ones who were shouting in the cinema, I don't think I would have worried about that. I think
Well, you can't watch the film.
I think I would only intervene if I thought someone was in danger or of being hurt.
But you can't see the film. I've paid my money. Let's do it then. I've paid to watch this film, and these people are making noise in front of me. I can't watch the film.
Eddie, if you'd been there with me, I'd have said something. On my own, I wouldn't.
She was with her children.
Less likely I would have said anything.
But once, Eddie, I was at Walthamstow Market, and I saw a couple arguing, and then the more I was watching this situation, the more I could see that it was a young man stealing a woman's handbag, and I don't know what kicked in, and even to this day I don't. But after the man wrestled the woman to the ground and took her bag, I gave chase. Now, I'm not even thinking what I'm going to do whilst I'm giving chase. But at that time, I was pretty fit, and I easily caught up with him. And I'm about 2 feet away from him, and I shouted, "Just drop that damn bag!" And I'm just so pleased to this day that he did.
Yeah.
And my partner said to me, "What were you thinking of? He could have had a knife."
Yeah. I can only imagine the hard time you got.
I tell you.
Yeah, see, because that's the other side of it. Were you to have done it, I'm sure you would have gone back and your husband would have gone, "Carol,
am I allowed to change it just slightly, Eddie? What would you do if you heard a burglar in your home? Would you sit tight or would you go down?"
Well, no, I don't think you're changing it at all. I think it's a natural kind of progression. It's the one. I mean, I've said it, and my bosses don't like it, but if you break into my house and I catch you, it may well be like Guantanamo Bay for you for a little while. But I've got to say, if somebody broke in, I would immediately want to go and defend my possessions. It would be my instinct. But sitting here now, I think, well, everything in my house is insured. As long as they don't enter this room, I know that my family are safe.
Yeah, but Eddie, you got a child. If you have a child in the house, your instinctive is not about your possessions. It's about the well-being of your family.
And am I doing best for the well-being of my family for me to leave them in said room and go down to a situation when I don't know what I'll find?
You ain't taking a chance. You ain't taking a chance.
What's the instinct saying that I'm going to do?
The instinct saying I must protect my family.
And therefore?
And therefore that anybody in my in my home, in my presence, can be a
So I'm going downstairs.
could be a possible threat.
So I'm going downstairs.
You wouldn't take a chance.
What am I doing? Work with me. What
Stay
am I
indoors,
doing?
Eddie. Stay in your room.
You confront it. You confront.
You see, I think that's, and it's interesting, man, woman. You see, I think, stay in the room, we're safe in here, we can phone the police in here, as long as, put the bed against the door! Put the bed against the door! Can't come in, can't come in.
You might phone the
Me,
police.
I'm going downstairs.
You might
I
phone- you
suspect
might
my
phone-
husband would too.
Yeah, I'm going to. Maybe that's a
might
male
phone the
female
police.
thing.
Wait.
But that's exactly the thing about getting involved. Because when guys talk about, a lot of guys, when the guys talk about getting involved, they give the guy a good little slap and and it's not about that. That's when they get themselves in trouble.
You might shout down, you leave the house now. I mean, I don't think that, I'm not the type of person that would want to rush to violence. But if I felt that my family were threatened, then I'd have no choice. That's a big distinction.
I'm going downstairs.
It's a big distinction, though. It's a big distinction of, having this macho rubbish than saying, listen, leave the house. Leave the house, otherwise there's a problem.
Yeah, a friend of mine, he was in bed with his wife, and there was but she said, look, there's noise downstairs, and he said, well, go on, find out what's happening. Then he stayed sleeping. Oh, great, if only, eh? I
Did
don't know.
she go downstairs?
Hell no, neither of them did. Maybe that's a safe thing. What would you do then? So we're talking about whether you... Few subjects on the agenda. We'll run out of time. But can both of you stay for 5 or 6 more minutes? Is that okay? So look, let me bring you up to speed. We're talking about embracing technology. David Cameron and his comments are on our agenda. Radio 4 and whether or not the 104 people that work there, any of them need to be black. And what does it say about the organisation? If anything, I'd like to get your thoughts. Certainly strong opinions from there. We'll try and keep it going with that, shall we? Ooh. Oh, Shani? Shani?
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Oh, nice to speak to you.
Yeah. I'm very saddened by your attitude, not surprised.
What is it?
The getting involved thing. I think it's a question of humanity versus legality.
Okay.
And I absolutely support Eugene. I think he showed courage and he showed his conscience overcame his fear. And he was able to stand up and be counted as a man. And I think there's too much of this fear thing. Oh, gosh, well, the police are going to get me. Yes, they will, because they will always bust an adult over a child because of the paperwork involved with dealing with a minor. It's wrong. We all know it. But I, for one, totally support what Eugene did. I would have done the same. I wouldn't have thrown the guy off bodily. I'm not big enough. But I certainly would have put myself in between the baby's pram and this idiot. I would have done that.
What about my attitude disappoints you, Shani?
What about your attitude? Because you were just saying, oh, no, he shouldn't have done it. He's going to get busted. You can't live in fear. You have to do what's right. Sometimes the law is wrong. The law is an ass in this country, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to dealing with juvenile crime. And that's why you have every adult, anybody over 18, terrified of teenagers, because they know whatever they do, they'll be in wrong and in trouble. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to let what might happen to me determine whether or not I can sleep at night doing the right thing or not doing the right thing. If I see somebody about to attack a baby in a pram, I'm not going to stand there and look the other way. I'm not going to do it. And I'm a woman, and that disappoints me that you would. Because what if that was your wife or your child or your auntie or your friend? I would do it for anybody, for any woman, even an older person, a man. Somebody getting bullied, I'm not going to stand there and just do nothing about it. Am I putting myself in danger? Maybe. But you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to live my life for what I believe in. I'm not going to live in fear, because that's no life. And that's why I see what's happening to this country. The men are becoming just weaker and weaker and scarier and scarier. And the women, the same thing. And it's just sad to see.
If you hear a story about a woman who's been thrown onto the train tracks, or somebody who's had bleach thrown in their face, and Simon talking about running after somebody, took somebody's handbag, why is it wrong? Why are the people who decide this is not for me, I don't want to get involved, I don't want to put myself in harm's way, why are they so wrong?
Because at the end of the day, right, I mean, I've been attacked. You know, I've lived in London for 20 years. I'm American. I've been attacked. I've been thrown into a canal. You know, things happen. But at the end of the day, I'm going to stand up and be who I am. I'm not going to let fear of other people's bad behavior determine who I am. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but I'm a bullshit person. I'm a bolshy person. If I see somebody getting bullied, I'm not necessarily going to go and jump in the person's face and be stupid and try to get myself killed, but I might just go and stand in between, you know what I mean? Do something. I'm not just going to stand there and look the other way, because one day that might be me or my child that needs help. And it would bother me greatly to know that people stood aside and did nothing. And every time you do that, you look the other way, you're losing your humanity, you're losing the humanity of others around you. It's infectious, and then we end up where we are now, where nobody gets involved. And I think it's sad, and I think it's pathetic.
Have you got a computer? Have you got Listen Again?
Pardon me?
Have you got Listen Again? We're on this thing called iPlayer.
Yeah, I've actually turned it on for the first time tonight because
Right,
I was in the car driving home and I got quite upset.
You should listen. You shouldn't get upset.
I'm upset because I see this attitude and it's so prevalent nowadays, isn't it?
We understand that. I want you to listen now for a second. You should listen to it, because when you listen to it, you'll hear what I actually said. I just wanted you to make your point first, but you'll hear what I actually said. It may well have been the right thing for Eugene to do. It may well have been.
Would you have done it?
It may no.
What would you have done, Eddie?
I would have told him that somebody was coming on the bus. I may well have tried to trick him. I may well have gone to the bus driver and told him to phone the police, but I wouldn't have grabbed him by the ear and thrown him off the bus.
Not through, but what would you have done?
Well,
the man's about to kick the baby's pram. What would you have done? Would you just stood there and let it happen?
About to. I think that, only Stephen Gerrard gets away with that. I don't think you're allowed to punch somebody usually because you think they're about to punish you, yeah? Here's the idea, right? This is what you will hear when you listen on the iPlayer. I said to Eugene, admirable though it may well have been, your underpants over your trousers, I wonder and I doubt whether you did the right thing. Had you been pulled up by the police, you would have gone to jail for assault. You are not allowed to grab people by the ear, throw them off anything, and physically manhandle them in any way, shape, or form. You can't do that, and you wouldn't advocate that.
No, I wouldn't. I'm not saying, but you know what, Eddie? We live in the real world. He's not allowed to, kick a baby's pram, but he would have done it. Who would have stopped him?
We can't say it's not
yeah?
going to be a defense in a court of law. I abused this guy, I assaulted this guy because I thought, and he said he was about to kick the pram. You wouldn't get away with it. What I'm saying is, intervene, yes. Help that lady and that baby, yes. But if you grab hold of, manhandle that guy, you are going to get yourself in trouble because it's a slippery slope. I see somebody fighting with somebody and I think they're beating up their girlfriend, so I go and I punch them in their face. They punch me back, so I kick. Where does it stop then?
No. I think that it's a totally different situation.
It's about whether A, you should intervene, and maybe more importantly, how you intervene.
Absolutely. But at the end of the day, all I want to say is I absolutely salute Eugene and his friends who said he was crazy and whatever. I think he needs new friends, to be honest, because he did the right thing. I absolutely salute him, and, sue me. I probably will get sued. But if I was a bloke, I might have done the same thing. But as a woman, I wouldn't. I would have just physically put myself in the way because certain things you just can't stand by and watch.
Thank you very much for your call. Appreciate it, Shani. Sleep well, there you have it. Shani's given us her opinion of what Eugene did. If you just joined us, Eugene was on a bus. The bus was packed. A woman went past him. She was trying to put her buggy in one of those places, reserved for buggies. A guy wouldn't move out the way. She got into an argument, and the guy said that if you push that thing near my legs, I'm going to kick your pram. He was so offended by what happened that he got involved and he grabbed the guy by the ear and he threw him off the bus. And Shani's just saying there, well, I applaud people like him, and I'd love to know what you have to say about it. 020-722-42000. Oh, I've got some emails here I've got to read. 020-722-42000. Or before I read emails, let me give you a quick rundown. So we're asking, have you ever got involved? Let's get some of these emails and texts out, shall we? Eugene is not mad. This is Eugene who got involved in this incident on the bus, and I want to know if you would, by the way. Eugene is not mad for throwing that boy off the bus, though I'm not sure I'd be as bold. I would have at least tried to expose his behaviour by firmly suggesting that he had no shame. To be pedantic, it was technically assault, but Betty Eugene was prepared to be a martyr to common decency, which is commendable, rather than just walking off with a sick feeling of knowing that he saw something wrong and did nothing about it. Decent people looking the other way is all that is needed for some people to think they own the world for community to fall apart. If it was my mother, I'd be grateful. As it is, I'm thankful for people such as Eugene who are not prepared to look away and bite their lips. A vital conversation as always, and that's from Steve. Thanks, Steve. I personally, I'm giving my personal opinion, I'm not speaking for the BBC. I think you know that by now if you listened to this show before. Yes, get involved. Yes, do something. I think that I may well have been compelled to. But physically, I think you have to be careful. When you look back on your actions, there's no point in you going and get yourself in trouble. And it's not enough to say that I thought he was going to hurt her, so I hurt him. That's my opinion. Maybe you've been in the situation. Eugene talked about his friends just kind of going, "You're mad," and him not being particularly enamoured with that. Text 07786 200 949. It was another story. Let's
taken away from them.
Kevin, what do you think?
Morning, Eddie.
Morning to you, sir.
Nice to speak to you again.
Apologies, my lack of manners there. Good morning to you, Kevin.
That's all right, mate. Can I just say one thing before I get on to that, the mother? Eugene, top man. Without a doubt, he done exactly the right thing. Fair play to the geezer. And I would have done exactly the same thing, without a doubt.
That doesn't surprise me, having spoken to you. That doesn't actually mean that it was the right thing to do, though.
Why doesn't it surprise you then, Eddie?
Because that's the way you talk. You talk about seeing injustice, putting yourself in harm's way. And you sound like a guy who's on the telly at the minute when I speak to you. I don't know if you've been watching the Wolverine on Big Brother, but you sound exactly like him. I mean, I'll say it one more time, and I played a clip from Eugene in a little while. I can't tell you that Eugene was wrong, and it was incredibly brave what he did. And, you know, if my wife had been on there with a baby, I would have hoped that somebody would have stepped in. But I cannot sit on the radio and say to someone, it is right to assault somebody because you thought they were going to do something else. If the police had come, he would have got in trouble.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's about time people actually stepped in a little bit more. That's why we're in the situation we are now, because too many people are turning a blind eye. Now, I'm sorry, but if the geezer said that in front of me, I'd have had to say something without a doubt, and I would have probably gone down the same route as Eugene. Now, I'll take it as a compliment. I don't know what you said, but I don't know about the guy from Big Brother, because I don't watch that rubbish. I'm
sorry if I've let you down. I watch it every single night. I watch it.
Well, Eddie, I thought it was better than that, mate.
Well, I'll see. It's not going to be the first time I disappoint you. I promise you. Ask my wife.
No, it's all right. I'm only making about. Horses for courses. If you want to watch that sort of stuff, it's fine. All I'm saying is, you know, this is why society is in the state it is, because there's not enough people standing up for the rights of the minority. You know, you can't let these sort of things happen. And I won't, without a doubt. And I've done it before, and I'll do it again. And I sod the consequences. You know, if I get pulled up about it, you know, fair enough. But that's just me. I've got to stand up for the rights.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Fair enough. Get to your main point.
Right. The woman who's had the 14 kids, or on her 14th kid now.
He just walks off. I think there's problems coming in my house. Now, I need you to listen to this and give me your reaction. We had a call earlier on from somebody called Eugene, and he talked to us. And the whole conversation is about, would you get involved? A woman was at the cinema and some youngsters were playing about, and she said to them, look, shut up, please, keep it quiet. I paid my money to come and watch this. And, you know, after the film, one of them threw bleach in her face and possibly has damaged her eyesight. So one of the conversations we've been having tonight is, would you get involved? if you've seen something, did you get involved? And Eugene gave us a call. This is just a little bit of what Eugene said to us.
So now the abuse started to escalate and his voice started to get louder, and it went on for probably around a minute, but it seemed like it was going on for ages. And I just thought to myself, I can't believe how this guy's going on. And then he actually said, if you move the pram closer to my shoes, I will kick your pram. And at this point, I thought, she has a baby in the pram. The bus is crowded. No one's going to say anything. And I'm just fuming. So naturally, I am a kind of person who will get involved in those type of situations when it builds to a certain point. I grabbed him by the ear and I threw him off the bus. And I turned around to everybody on the bus and I said, while I had him and I was trying to get him off the bus, I turned around to people and I said, not one person is going to help me. Not one. And the whole bus, everybody sort of looked down and everyone looked away and no one helped me. No one, and it could have escalated to a bad situation. Now, I was really frustrated and the lady thanked me.
So that's a bit of Eugene who called us, I don't know, about an hour and a half ago now. Your reaction, please.
Sadly, it happens every day, doesn't it? I mean, I've seen scenarios like that. I've not been involved myself. I think the point that Eugene made is that he said he was angry, wasn't he? He said he was seething. And that makes you do stuff normally. But you know, in this crazy world we live in, the repercussions of that somehow. People are frightened to get involved now, aren't they? They really are genuinely frightened. And you've got to treat everything on its merits. And you are, without question, you're taking a chance.
Nevertheless, he did get involved.
He did.
What would you say to that?
Good on him. Good on him. Really, really congratulations to him.
What would you have done?
It's a difficult one. I mean, it's easy to sit here. I think the situation that you're in dictates. Personally, if I was seething in anger, I probably would have got involved myself. Might well have regretted it afterwards, but I think you deal with it, as they say, Johnny on the spot, don't you? I think I would have got involved.
You see, my point to him, and it's upset some people, my point to him was, yeah, you can get involved, but to grab somebody by the ear, throw them off the bus, that constitutes...
Risk. It's risk.
Well, it's not risk, it's assault.
Yeah, it's a risk of...
It's assault.
Yeah, of course it's assault.
Risk is saying, I don't think you should do that. That's still risk. That's intervening.
Yeah.
But that's assault.
But when you get yourself in a scenario, we can sit here in a studio and be quiet, we can detach ourselves. But you can see injustice, you can see aggravation. Yeah? You're seething, aren't you? And then, you
react instinctively.
Your emotions get the better of you.
And we need somebody to get involved.
I mean, there's got to be... I mean, obviously, he called earlier on, but there's got to be the chance that Eugene, once he'd got home and the dust had settled a little bit and the red mist had disappeared, might well have been shaken, might have been concerned. Repercussions, whether they be...
He said that one of the reasons that he phoned us was that when he went and he told his friends about him, they were like, You're mad. You idiot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that upset him, I think.
That would have been most people's reaction, though.
I think so. Yeah. One of the conversations we've been having tonight's about colour. Apparently, Simon Woolley from Operation Blackvet, who was here earlier, they've done an investigation and found that of 104 people on Radio 4, none of them are black. I was talking about what that means, why they're not representative. Does that mean that people haven't gone for the job, or does that mean that Radio 4 is not particularly interested in people of colour? We've been finding out whether colour matters in the job that you go for. Hassan has given us a call. Good evening to you, Hassan.
You're Eddie. You two are absolute legends. You make me laugh all night. Oh my God. Anyway, apart from that, on a serious issue, Eddie, I don't know whether you agree with this colour issue, but I just think it's mad. Look, I don't think it matters whether a black man or an Asian man or a white man does a show. A radio is radio to me. I mean, I listen to you and Dawson Adebayo, and both of you are two black men, aren't you? You're my favourites. But I don't look at your colour. I don't think that matters who does Radio 4 shows. Really, what do you say? I mean, I think this is a crazy world. Why are we even discussing colour into radio?
Because it is important. It must be important. Otherwise, Dotton and I wouldn't be the only two presenters that I could tell you about in the whole of local radio. See, I go to them when they, I'm lucky enough to get nominated sometimes, and I go to the Gillard Awards or whatever, and that's when it's really interesting. And you talk to people of colour and find out what programmes they do, and you find out they do the Dutch Pot or Rice and Peas on a Sunday evening. So it's important to somebody, obviously.